Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 1 and we will be presenting about electronic devices. And first of all, let us introduce ourselves. Firstly, my name is Muhammad Luqman Hazim bin Hadari.
My name is Muhammad Hazi Imran bin Hasni Imran.
My name is Imanur Aina binti Adnan.
My name is Ratu Azila binti Muhammad Zaid.
And my name is Aida Sharmi binti Suhaimi. And we are from EH2432E. So to start off, I will talk about the electronic devices. Okay, what are electronics and electronic devices? Electronics are derived from electron mechanics, which is the behavior of an electron under different conditions of applied electric field. An electronic device is the device who control the flow of the electrons. Electronics have various branches that includes the digital electronics, integrated circuit, and semiconductor device. The thing that we want to discuss is the semiconductor. Semiconductors. What are semiconductors? There are three types of semiconductor material. The first one is an insulator, which is a material that does not allow electric current to pass through it easily. Examples of insulators are rubber and glass. Next, a semiconductor. A semiconductor is a material that have a conductivity between conductors and non-conductors or insulators. Example for semiconductor is silicon and germanium. Lastly, the conductors. A conductor is a material that allows electric current to pass through it easily, and most metals are good conductors. Example for conductor is silver and aluminum. Next, one of the differences between these semiconductor materials are the band gap. Band gap is the difference in energy between the valence band and the conduction band. For the insulator, the gap is wide, therefore it can be only crossed when a breakdown conditions occur, for example, when a very high voltage is applied across the material. For semiconductors, the band gap is narrower, allowing an electron in the valence band to jump into the conduction band if it absorbs a photon. In conductors, the conduction and the valence band overlap, so there is no gap as shown in the diagram. This means that electrons in the valence band move freely onto the conduction band, so there are always electrons available as free electrons. Semiconductor can be classified to two types, which is the intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductor. Basically, intrinsic semiconductor is in pure state. It is a semiconductor that are free of doping impurities, and its conductivity depends on its temperature. While for the extrinsic semiconductor, it is a semiconductor that are formed after adding impurities, which is doping, and its conductivity increase. Next, they differ in terms of number of holes and electrons. For intrinsic semiconductor, the number of holes, the number of electrons, and the intrinsic carrier concentration are the same. In contrast to the intrinsic semiconductor, for extrinsic semiconductor, the number of holes is greater in p-type than in n-type, and the number of electrons is greater in n-type than in p-type semiconductor. Next is doping. Doping is a process of adding a specific amount of impurities known as dopants to a pure semiconductor in order to enhance its electrical conductivity. There are two types of dopants that are usually used in doping. The first one is pentavalent, such as arsenic and phosphorus, and the trivalent, such as the boron and aluminum. These dopants give two entirely different types of semiconductor, which is the n-type and p-type semiconductor. N-type semiconductor is the doping of pentavalent impurity atoms such as arsenic and phosphorus to silicon and germanium semiconductor. And the difference of n-type and p-type is that in n-type semiconductor, the major charge carriers is electrons and the minor charge carriers is holes. For example, in the diagram, the phosphorus atoms join right in the crystal structure of the silicon, each one bonding with 4 adjacent silicon atoms, and the phosphorus atom has 5 electrons in its valence shell, but only 4 of them are bonded to adjacent atoms. Therefore, the 5th valence electron is left hanging out with nothing to bond, and it can move freely. Because of having an extra electron, it is called as the n-type semiconductor. Meanwhile, the p-type semiconductor is a doping of trivalent impurity atoms such as gallium and boron to silicon and germanium semiconductor. The major charge carriers for a p-type are holes and the minor charge carriers is the electrons. When a small amount of dopant such as boron that has only 3 electrons in the valence shell is incorporated into the crystal, the atom is able to bond with 4 silicon atoms, but since it has only 3 electrons to offer, a hole is created. The hole behaves like a positive charge, so semiconductors doped in this way are called p-type semiconductors, and just like a positive charge, holes attract electrons. Lastly, the p-n junction is the basic building block of many semiconductor devices such as the diodes and the transistor. And if a piece of intrinsic silicon is doped so that part is n-type and the other part is p-type, a p-n junction forms at the boundary between the two regions and a diode is created as shown in the diagram. And two important processes occur during the formation of p-n junction, which are the diffusion and the drift. The N region loses free electrons as they diffuse across the junction into P region where they combine with holes near the junction. This creates a layer of positive charges near the junction. As the electrons move across the junction, the P region loses holes as the electrons and holes combine. This creates a layer of negative charge near the junction, and these two layers of positive and negative charge form the depletion region where the p-n junction is depleted of charge carriers, which is the electrons and holes, due to diffusion across the junction.
So the application of semiconductors in electronic device, there are several types of device that use semiconductors, and one of it is known as digital camera. So in digital camera, we have this one semiconductor known as CCD, or it is known as charge coupled device. So what is charge coupled device? So charge coupled device, or CCD, is a semiconductor sensor that converts light into electrical signals. The inside part of the camera, it has a plate made of silicon. So this plate is known as CCD, or known as charge coupled device. So it is made up of tiny elements known as pixels. So as you can see in this picture, there are numerous pixels that made up the charge coupled device, the CCD here. So what are pixels? Pixels are tiny photodiodes which are very sensitive to light. So when the light strikes the CCD device, it will create an electric charge. Okay, so the next one, how does light converts to electric current? So as I mentioned just now, the surface of CCD is packed with photodiodes, or we know it as pixels. So each of these pixels can sense the light that strikes it, and it will accumulate electrical charge based on the strength of the light. So photodiode is the type of semiconductor with a p-n pair, where there are two types of semiconductor, which is p-type and n-type semiconductor. And there are two types of bias that we must know, which is forward bias and also reverse bias. So for the forward bias is a circuit where the p-type, the p side, is attached to the anode, which is the positive pole, and the n-type is attached to cathode, which is the negative pole. When the light strikes, the electric current will pass through the circuit and the current will flow through the semiconductor. The other one is reverse bias. It is a bit different with the forward bias, where the p-type is attached to the cathode, which is the negative pole, and the n-type is attached to anode, which is the positive pole. When the light strikes the photodiodes of pixels, there will be two elements that will be created, which are holes and also electrons. When circuit is arranged in a reverse bias arrangement, the electric is unable to flow, which means the electron will remain at the p side, compared to forward bias, where it allows the charge to move through the photodiodes. The next that we want to look is how photodiodes accumulate electric charge. The concept is when light strikes a side, either p side or the n side, the electrons and holes are created. So these are the two elements that I mentioned just now. The two elements will be created within the semiconductor in a photoelectric effect. So when we talk about lights, there are various lengths of wavelength. So we have short wavelength and also the long wavelength. For the short wavelength, when the light with a short wavelength strikes the photodiodes, the light will be absorbed at the P layer. So now we focus to the concept where when the light strikes, there are two elements that will be created, which is holes and also the electrons. So when light with short wavelength absorbed by the P type, the electron that is created at the P side will be transferred to the N layer and the holes will remain at the P layer. Compared to light with a long wavelength, when the light strikes the photodiode, it will be absorbed by the N layer. Okay? So for the short wavelength will be absorbed by the P layer and long wavelength will be absorbed by the N layer. When the light is absorbed, electron and holes will be created. So when these two elements are created, the one that will remain at the N side is the electron and the holes will be attracted to the P side. The stronger the intensity of light that hits the photodiode, the greater the electrical charge that will accumulate within it. Just now, I've mentioned that lights have different length of wavelength. So the long wavelength will create a stronger intensity of light and thus it will make the side have a greater electrical charge that will accumulate within it. The accumulation of charge at p-n junctions is called as photovoltaic effect. Okay, the last one that we are going to look at is on the methods of how CCD sensors relay electrical charge. The charge that accumulates at diode, when the light strikes the photodiode, the one that will be created are not electrical signal, but it is known as charge. Either it is positive or negative charge. So, this charge must be transferred to the edge of CCD for them to be converted into an electrical signal or voltage. So how can this charge transferred to the edge of CCD is by applying series of pulses. So this charge will accumulate at each photodiode and will be relayed in succession. The movement of charge is like buckets of water in a bucket line. The way the charge are moved are from one photodiode to another photodiode through a gate. So let's look at the picture. Okay, for example, when the camera have a CCD device and this device contain 3 photodiodes. So the gate is located between 2 photodiodes, just like this. So this is known as the gate. In order for the charge to be converted into an electrical signal, we must transfer this charge to the edge of the CCD. When the charge is transferred, the gate will be closed. Okay, for example, in this figure, each gate will be closed for them to transfer the charge between the first photodiode to the second photodiode to the third photodiode. When it is transferred, the first photodiode will remain empty, which means the charge have been transferred to the second one. In order for the second photodiode to transfer the charge to the third and the edge of CCD, only the second and the third gate that will be closed, which means the first gate will remain open as there is no charge that is required to be transferred to the next photodiode. And this process is repeated until this charge will transfer to the edge of CCD. So when the charge is transferred to the edge of CCD, this is a place where this charge will be converted into electrical signal.
As for the second application, we have earphone or microphone to speaker application, which the type of semiconductor devices being used is transistor. As you can see in the picture right here, there are 3 terminals or pins that are being connected at the transistor. And the number, which is BC548, is actually an example for the format of transistor followed by the serial number. So what is transistor? As I mentioned before, transistor is actually the type of semiconductor devices that consists of 3 terminals or pins that is being functioned as to generate, control, or amplify the electrical signals. So there are 2 types of transistor, which is the bipolar junction transistor and field effect transistor. And for the BJT transistor, we have NPN and PNP transistor, which the difference between these two type of transistor is only at the emitter. For the PNP, the emitter is moved towards the base, while for the NPN, the emitter is going out from the base. While for the FET transistor, there are two examples of the FET transistor, which is a JFET and also MOSFET. So as you can see the picture right here, the biggest difference between these two type of transistors are actually the terminal itself. For example, for the BJT, this one, the terminal is base, collector and emitter, while for the FET transistor, the terminal is gate, drain and also source. So BJT transistor is actually a current control transistor and FET transistor is the voltage control transistor. So which transistor should be used? The common transistor being used is actually the MOSFET and BJTs. So in order for us to determine which one of the transistors should be used in such application is actually by looking at several factors such as the power level, drive voltage, efficiency, cost and switching speed. And usually for MOSFET transistor, it is being used in high power application, while for the BJTs, it is being used in the low current application. So moving on to the application, this is the simple amplifier circuit, while the next one is actually the amplifier circuit, where the microphone is being put as the input. So before we discuss further about the application, the first thing that we need to know is actually the type of transistor being used in this application. So this is the transistor, this is the base, collector and emitter. So this type of transistor is actually NPN because the emitter is going outwards from the base. Another thing that we need to know is the value of current at the base will always be smaller than the value of current at the collector. This is because base is actually the one that will control the current. So when there is no current at the base, meaning that there is also no current at the collector. And the relationship between the current at base and current at collector is actually directly proportional to each other. For example, when we have the value of current of 0.1 ampere at the base, so the current at the collector can be up to 2 ampere. And if we increase more the value of current at the base, for example, before this is 0.1, and then we increase the current at base for 0.2, so the current at collector will be 4. When the current at base increase, the current at collector will also increase. So for this application, we can see that microphone is being put as the input here. The function of microphone here is that it can convert the sound energy to electrical energy. And we can see in this application that earphone is actually being connected at the collector. As you can see, there is a capacitor being located nearby the microphone. The function is that from the voltage source, the current can flow towards the earphone. The current will also can flow towards the 50 kilo ohm resistor, the 5 kilo resistor, the transistor. And if there is no capacitor being located here, so the current from the voltage source can directly go towards the microphone. So the current that flow is actually a direct current. But the problem is that we don't want the direct current to flow towards the microphone. So we put the capacitor nearby the microphone. At the microphone, there is alternating current which will move backward and forward. So when the capacitor is being put here, as the function of capacitor is to store the electrical energy, other than the function is to block the flow of DC current and allow the flow of alternating current. Because actually in this application, we don't want the current from the voltage source to control the current for overall. We want the microphone to control the current itself. So when the current from the microphone flow towards the base and then go to the collector, so eventually earphone will convert the electrical energy to sound energy. The small current that is being produced at the mic will produce a large current at the collector, because the current from the microphone will go toward the base and it will go to the collector and go towards the earphone. The current produced at earphone is higher than the current produced at mic, so the sound produced is also higher than in mic.
Move on to our next point, which is sensor and transducer. So what is sensor? Firstly, sensor is defined as a device which measures as a physical quality, which is light, sound, and space, and converts them into an easily readable format. And it gives an accurate readings after calibration. Sensor sense a physical change in some characteristic that changes in response to excitation. So basically, simply output that readable signal that you and us can understand. There are two types of sensor. What's make the difference between two sensor, which is an active sensor and a passive sensor? An active sensor does not require any external power, while passive sensor require an external power. The example of external power is battery. Moving on to an examples of active sensor. Firstly is that piezoelectric sensor, which is a pressure sensor. So when there's a pressure and you use a piezoelectric sensor, it can read as a voltage. And secondly, thermocouple, which is a temperature sensor. When there is a temperature change and you use a sensor, thermocouple sensor, it can read also in voltage. So moving on to example of passive sensor. Firstly is that it is a resistant temperature detectors, which is known as RTD and known as temperature sensor also. So when there is a temperature change and you use a RTD sensor, it can read a resistance change. And secondly is a capacitive hygrometer, which is a humidity sensor. When you want to calculate a humidity moisture and you use a capacitive hygrometer, it can read a capacitance change. Next is a transducer.
Okay, so I will talk about the transducer. So a transducer can be identified as the similar value to a sensor, but will turn the physical signal from one format to another format. It means that its output and input signal are not the same as each other. So transducer are occasionally introduced as the energy converter. The transducer also known as the input transducer and also the output transducer. An input transducer receive a format of energy and then transform it into the electrical output. For example, the microphone take physical sound wave, turns the wave into the electrical signal which can be transferred through wire to the amplifier. For the output transducer, it gets the electricity and transform it into the another format. So this is the example of the transducer, such as the light bulb that converts electricity to light, and then the motor which convert electricity into the motion, and the last is the microphone which convert electricity into the sound. Based on the information between the sensor and transducer, we can be conclude that not all transducer are sensor, but most sensor are transducer. So what is the difference between the sensor and transducer? The difference between the sensor and transducer is, firstly, the sensor is nothing but just a primary element that senses any physical phenomena, or it gives an indication in any change of the physical phenomena. While the transducer, every transducer is always having a sensor, but every sensor doesn't need to be a transducer. Next, sensor output is always electrical output, while the transducer output will not be electric output. And lastly, a sensor is a complete assembly required to detect and communicate a particular event, while a transducer is the element within that assembly which accomplish only the detection of the event.
So that's all from our group. Thank you.